Hello everyone. We have already discussed about a few things about the CT and PT, current transformer and potential transformer or voltage transformer. So current transformer is basically to bring down the current level, and potential transformer is to bring down the voltage level. So they are used for measuring instruments and protective instruments, protecting devices. Because generally these devices, measuring and protective devices, are generally meant for low voltages and low currents, 110 volt and 5 ampere generally. So CT will break down the current level before giving the current to the relay or the measuring instrument. So because it brings down the current level, that means it will step up the voltage. It is a transformer, right? So V1 by V2 is equal to I2 by I1, inversely proportional. So CT is a step up transformer, but PT, it brings down the voltage level, so it is a step down transformer. Okay, and CT is connected in such a way that the primary winding of the CT in series with the line, and potential transformer or voltage transformer is connected across the line. Okay, so because CT is a step up transformer, so N1 number of turns will be greater than N2. Primary side turns are greater in number than secondary side turns. Okay, and PT or VT is step down transformer, so N2 will be less than N1. Here is a step up transformer, so N1 will be less than N2. On the N2 side, on the secondary side, number of turns will be higher. N2 will be higher than N1 because it is a step up transformer. Okay, this slide is already shown to you. So CT, two things mainly. First, it steps down the current so that it can be easily handled by the relay current coil. Secondly, it isolates the relay circuitry from the high level voltage of the ESP system. In a power transformer, if the load is disconnected, there will be only magnetizing current flowing in the primary, which magnetizing current is proportional to the your load connected with the secondary. So it still draws some amount of current from the source even though load is disconnected. But in case of the CT, primary winding current is nothing but the current flowing in the line, so that current does not depend on the secondary side load. Okay, that is the difference between a power transformer and a CT. This diagram has already been shown to you. Okay, now it's very important to know the difference between a measuring CT and a protective CT. Measuring CT or metering CT are those CTs which are used for measuring devices like emitters, voltmeters. I told you CT and PT are used for protecting devices as well as measuring devices. So the metering CT or measuring CTs are those which are used for measuring devices, and protective CTs are those which are used for protective devices like relays. Okay, so as you can see from the characteristic, the difference between the two, a metering CT or a measuring CT is so designed that in case of fault, it will saturate and thus save the instrument connected to its secondary from damage due to excessive current. So this is the measuring CT curve. This is the primary current. Okay, so CT, on the primary side, current is increasing, but secondary side increases only up to the saturation point. After that point, even though the primary current is increasing due to saturation, the secondary side current will be decreasing. That is the characteristic of metering city or measuring city. On the other hand, a protective city is designed to faithfully reproduce the largest current. So this is the protective city characteristic. As you can see, the secondary side current is directly proportional to the primary side current. As primary current is increasing, secondary current is also increasing proportionally. Okay. At this point, it is important to know the the errors in a city. Okay. Ideally, current transformer should faithfully transform the primary current without any error. Right? Whatever is the primary current in its primary winding, that is the current in the line, that should be faithfully transformed on the secondary side according to the turn ratio. But there is always some error in practical scenario. This error appears both in magnitude and in phase angle. Hence, the errors in a city are two types: ratio error and phase angle error. Ratio error arises due to difference in the ratio of the magnitude. Okay. Suppose the city having a turn ratio of 5:1. Okay. So if primary current is 5 ampere, secondary current should be 1 ampere ideally. But due to this ratio error, it is not so. So that is ratio error in the magnitude of the ratio of primary and secondary current. And phase angle error appears when the primary current and the secondary current ideally in a transformer should be 180 degree out of phase. Okay, in any transformer, primary current and secondary current should be 180 degree out of phase. But in practical scenario, in a city, this is not the case. So that is termed as phase angle error. So the percentage current error or the ratio error can be calculated using this formula, where IP is the secondary current, your ES is the secondary induced voltage, IP is the primary current, EP is the primary induced EMF, KT is the turn ratio, which is equal to number of turns on the secondary side divided by number of turns in the primary side, N2 by N1. It is N2 by N1. Okay. So coming to the phase angle error, I told you for an ideal city, the angle between the primary and reverse secondary current vector is 0. So reverse secondary current, if secondary current is not reversed, then they will be 180 degree out of phase. That's what I was telling, that the primary and secondary current for an ideal city is 180 degree out of phase, and if secondary is reversed, primary and reverse secondary will have 0 phase angle difference in between them. So that is the case for an ideal city. But in practical case, there is always a difference in phase between these two currents, due to the fact that primary current has to supply the component of the exciting current. This error is termed as phase angle error. These two errors are also present in PT, potential transformer. Now coming to the voltage transformer, as you can see, voltage transformer steps down the high voltage of the line to a safe level enough for the relaying system and the personnel to handle. The standard secondary voltage on line-to-line basis is 110 volt. A PT primary is connected in parallel at the point where measurement is desired. Measurement or relaying is desired. Unlike a CT whose primary is in series, I told you CTs are connected in series with the line, the primary of the CT, but PT is connected across the line. Okay. VT also suffers from ratio and phase angle error. Correct. So this shows a CT-PT connection along with a relay and a circuit breaker. Okay, the relay will send a trip command. The trip command will be handled by the trip circuit. Once the trip circuit is activated, then the relay contacts will be closed. How this works? Suppose this line is protected by this protective scheme. Okay, as soon as there is a fault, the current in the line will be increasing abnormally to a very high value. So that is the fault current. Now that high current will be transformed by the CT ratio. The CT primary is in series, the secondary is supplying the current to the relay. Okay, the PT is connected across the line. Okay, so CT is supplying the transformed current to the relay, the PT is supplying the voltage to the relay, transform voltage. It is incoming current and voltage. If they are greater than the threshold value of the relay, if the pickup value of the relay will send a trip command in the form of a electrical signal. So if this, as soon as this is sent, this contact will be moved upward due to electromagnetic attraction. Okay, when there is a current, it will create enough electromagnetic force, this contact will be closed. Okay, now this secondary circuit, this is auxiliary circuit, this is not the main part of this protective scheme, this is auxiliary part of this protective scheme. This auxiliary circuit is having a auxiliary power source, which is a DC source. Every power system protective scheme is having a auxiliary DC source for the trip circuit. Unless and until there is a source, there will not be any flow of current. So as soon as there is a signal received, because there is a power supply, there will be enough electromagnetic attraction to close these two contacts. Once this contact is closed, the circuit is complete and current will be flowing via this strip coil. This strip coil will produce enough electromagnetic force to pull down this contact away from the circuit breaker contacts. Once this contact is moved away, these two contacts of the circuit breaker are open and this part of the power system is disconnected from the source side. Okay, so I was talking about internal fault and external fault previously. Internal fault are those fault which are inside the zone of operation of a protective scheme or relay, and external faults are those faults which are lying outside the zone of operating zone of the protective scheme or the relay. Okay, faults within the zone are termed as internal faults, whereas faults outside the zone are called as external fault. So suppose this is a transformer to be protected. Okay, it is protected by this differential scheme, correct? So the operating zone or the protective zone of this protective scheme is defined by this 2 points. This is the operating zone within which it should operate, this protective scheme should operate. Okay, external faults are also called as true faults. Please remember, these external faults are also known as true faults. Ideally, a relay looking after the protection of a zone should operate only for internal faults. But as I told you, if for this section of the power system, whatever relaying scheme or protective scheme is employed, if that fails, then this scheme, although it should not operate for this external fault ideally, but if the dedicated protective scheme for this portion fails, then it will come into action as backup protection or secondary protection. Okay, the farthest point from the relay location, the farthest point from the relay location which is still inside the zone is called as the reach point of the relay. Up to what distance it can protect, that point, the farthest point, is called as the reach point of the relay. The distance, know the difference. Reach point is a point or location, whereas the reach of the relay is the distance between the relay and that point, that reach point. Reach point is a point, farthest point from the relay up to which it can protect. That means it is the farthest point, last point in its operating zone, and the distance between the relay location and the reach point is called as the reach of the relay. Okay, don't get confused. In exams, students make these mistakes again and again in defining these 2 points. Reach point is a point, reach is a distance. Now coming to the primary and backup protection. I told you operating time of backup protection should be equal to the operating time of the primary protection plus operating time of the primary circuit breaker. Okay, suppose there is a line section AB and another line section BC. Okay, so suppose there is a circuit breaker and a relay protective scheme employed for this line section BC. Similarly, for the line section AB, this relay RA along with circuit breaker A, CBA are employed. Okay, so from the source, power is flowing from A to B to C to the load. Okay, so this relay is getting the current and voltage which is not shown here via CTPT. Then it is giving the trip signal to circuit breaker if there is a fault. Similarly, this relay RA is getting the current and voltage from this CTPT which is not shown here, and it's giving the trip signal to circuit breaker A. Okay, and there is load on both sides, on bus A, also on bus C, also on bus B. Okay, so loads are connected at all the 3 buses. Okay, source is only one, so obviously current will flow from A to B to C. If for any reason this line is disconnected at any point, this line section is automatically disconnected. But if this line section is only disconnected, only this line section is still disconnected, then because it is unaffected, so current will be, power will be still be flowing from source to A to B. So bus A and bus B will be still be supplying the load if there is a fault only in this line section. Okay, now suppose there is a fault in the line section BC. Okay, so for this line section BC, this protective scheme RB plus CBB are the primary protective scheme. So this scheme is meant for this operating zone only. It should not operate for this operating zone, but as I told you, it can operate for the external faults only if the primary scheme fails for this external portion. If this scheme fails, then it will also protect this line section AB as backup protection, as secondary protection. But what is the condition? The operating time of backup protection should be equal to the operating time of the primary protection, which is primary protection is RA, plus operating time of the primary circuit breaker. So as you can see, is this showing that operating time? Suppose the operating time of your this scheme is TB, okay, and operating time of this relay plus this circuit breaker is this much, okay. So the difference of TA and TB, operating time of primary scheme and secondary scheme, is called as selective time interval. For satisfactory coordination and operation of a protective scheme using primary and backup protection, there must be a STI, selective time interval, which is the difference in the operating time of primary and backup protection scheme. This must be present for proper coordination between primary and backup protection. So as soon as there is a fault takes place at this location, say, then because current is flowing in the line, both these two relays will be able to detect the fault because current will rise in this line. So both will come to know that there is a fault, current flowing in the line, and the operation of these two relays will start immediately at the same time. Okay. Operation starting time will be simultaneous. Simultaneously they will start as soon as there is a fault in the line in any point. Now in case primary protection provided by this RB plus CBB operates successfully, the line BC will be de-energized. If this operates successfully, because fault is in this line section, this circuit breaker will be open and this line section will be disconnected, will be de-energized. Okay, but the loads on A and B bus will remain unaffected even though this line is de-energized or disconnected. Therefore, the backup protection provided by RA and CA, backup protection provided by RA and CA for this line section, RA plus CBA is the primary protection for line section AB, and backup protection for it is also acting as backup protection for the line section BC. Similarly, RB plus CBB is primary protection for BC, and it is also acting as backup protection for line section AB. Now, as soon as this line is disconnected or de-energized, so fault current will disappear, fault will disappear. As soon as fault is disappear, the current in this line will go back to normal value. See, as soon as there is a fault, the high current will be flowing from the source via this line to the fault location, to the ground, back to the source, right? But as soon as the faulty part is disconnected, current will go back to normal value. There will not be any fault current, no more fault current in the line. So this relay will come to know that now current has gone back to normal value, so it will reset. I told you operation of these two relay will start simultaneously as soon as fault appears, because current will reach abnormally high value. So if this primary protection for this line section operates successfully, this circuit breaker contacts will be open and this part will be disconnected, and current in this line section will go back to normal value. The relay RA will come to know that now current is normal and it will reset itself. Its operation is not completed now. However, in case this fails, this primary scheme for line section fails to operate successfully due to some error, there may be various reasons, so current will still be flowing in a line section because this is unable to operate and this line section is still connected. Fault is still there in the circuit, fault current is still flowing. in case this fails to operate, then because they are already in operation, they started simultaneously, right? So after some time, because fault current is still flowing, it will send the trip command to circuit breaker. It will wait for some time. How much time? That time is equal to operating time of this relay plus operating time of this relay, this circuit breaker. So until that time is elapsed, it will wait until then, and after that time, still if still current is abnormally high as fault current, then at that moment it will send a trip command to its associated circuit breaker, and the circuit breaker contacts will be open and this line section will be disconnected. As soon as this is disconnected, already this is disconnected because there's only one source. Okay, so the whole line section is disconnected, both A, B and BC. But as what is the disadvantage here? If this works satisfactorily when there is a fault in this line section, only the faulty section is disconnected. But if it fails to operate, this primary scheme for this faulty section, if it fails to operate, then secondary will come to action and it will disconnect the line here. In this scenario, you can see that although the fault is not in this line section, still it is disconnecting the line at this location. So a larger portion of the power system is disconnected when backup system operates. This is the disadvantage. If primary operates successfully, only the faulty section is disconnected. But if primary production fails, then secondary will come into action and it will disconnect a larger portion of the power system. Correct? So what did we learn? That operating time of backup protection should be equal to operating time of primary protection plus operating time of primary circuit breaker. Okay, so it will wait up to that much of time, that it will keep on monitoring whether the current has gone back to normal or not. If that after that point current is still abnormally high, it will send a trip command to circuit breaker. Okay, so that is the condition of primary and backup protection coordination. So this is the scenario when primary and backup protection operates normally. These are showing time instances. At instant 1, fault has appeared. So as soon as fault is appearing, both primary protection relay and backup protection relay, they will start simultaneously because both will detect abnormally high current. Correct? So their operation will start simultaneously. At instant 2, the primary relaying time is complete. What is the primary relay? RB is the primary relay, CBB is the primary circuit breaker for this line section, RA is the backup relay, CBB is the backup circuit breaker. Okay, so at instant 2, operation of primary relay is complete. Primary relay RB completes its process and it will send the trip command to its associated circuit breaker CBB at instant 2. Primary protection issues trip command to primary circuit breaker CBB and the operation of CBB starts at instant 2. Again CBB, primary circuit breaker, as soon as it receives the trip command from its associated relay, okay, as soon as this circuit breaker receives the trip command from this relay, it will start its operation and it will take some time to complete its operation. That is the operating time of this circuit breaker. So after that time, this is complete, after the operating time of primary circuit breaker is complete, it will trip and current will return back to normal value as soon as the faulty section is disconnected at instant 3. So as soon as current goes back to normal value, the backup protection provided by RA resets itself instead of issuing trip command to its circuit breaker. So that means the operating time of this relay has to be equal to operating time of this plus operating time of this. Until these two operating times are completed, it should not send trip command to its circuit breaker. So that's why primary relay operating time RB plus the circuit breaker operating time CBB is equal to operating time of primary relay. It has to be greater than this operating time has to be greater than this plus this. Okay. Otherwise, as soon as these two are complete, it will send trip command. So even though fault is cleared by relay and circuit breaker of line section BC, because if this is equal, as soon as the fault is cleared, it will send the trip command to its associated circuit breaker, the backup relay, which should not happen. So its operating time has to be greater than operating time of this plus this. Okay. So that's why proper STI, selective time interval, must be present in a coordination of primary and backup relay system, primary and backup protection system. So this was a sequence of events when there is a proper selective time interval and when both primary relay and backup relay coordinate correctly. Okay, then only the faulty section gets disconnected and it will reset itself, and this, as soon as it is reset, so it will not be tripped and current will be still flowing in the line. But if there is no proper coordination, when the relay operating time of the backup relay is less than the primary fault clearing time, then what will happen? In previous case it was greater, that's why it was satisfactory. Now what happens if that is not the case? So here this is the primary relay operating time, primary circuit breaker operating time, and the backup relay should wait up to this point. But in this case the backup relaying time is only up to instant 3, which is less than this plus this. Then what will happen? Let's see. So fault appears at instant 1, correct? So as soon as it appears, both the relays RA and RB, primary and secondary, will start simultaneously. At instant 2, primary relay time is complete, it will send a trip command to its associated circuit breaker CBB, and operation of CBB starts. Then the CBB will take some time to complete its operation, and it will complete its operation at instant 4, correct? And the line section BC is disconnected at instant 4. But the primary backup relay RA, without waiting for this to clear the fault, it completes its operation in this particular case, which should not happen, at instant 3. So backup relay time in this case is less than the total of operating time of primary relay and primary circuit breaker. At instant 3, the backup relay issues trip command to its circuit breaker CBA. So CBA will start operating. Okay. At instant 4, line section BC is disconnected. So current goes back to normal value. So a line section AB should not be disconnected, but because its operating time is less than the total of these two, so at instant 3 it will start its operation and send a trip command, and instant 4 this line is disconnected, but at instant 3 it has already sent the trip command. So at instant 5 the CBA will complete its operation after some time, and it will disconnect this line unnecessarily. Even though fault is cleared, this should not be disconnected, but because of this wrong coordination between RA and RB, even though the fault is cleared, this line is disconnected, faulty section line is disconnected, still due to wrong operating time, because it has not waited for this primary scheme to clear the fault, instead of waiting it issues trip command. After some time this line section is also disconnected unnecessarily, which should not happen. This is undesirable situation, right? So for proper coordination, this should wait until the operation of this primary scheme is completed. So its operating time should be greater than operating time of this plus operating time of this. Only after that it should complete its operation. If within this time the fault is cleared, then it will reset itself. If not cleared, then after some time, when its operating time is complete, it will send a trip command, and this circuit breaker will take some time and clear the fault after some more time. This is a proper coordination. Overcurrent protection, as we know, it is for protecting a device or any section of power system for overcurrent. Okay, so here radial system distribution system has been shown from source to load side. For this line section, relay is R1, it will have an associated circuit breaker, trip circuit. For this line section, relay is R2, it will have its associated circuit breaker and trip circuit. So if fault appears here, this should be the primary relay along with the primary circuit breaker. This for this line section R2 should be the primary relay with along with CB2 the primary circuit breaker for this line section. If fault appears here and R2 fails to operate along with CB2, if it fails to operate, then RA will act as backup protection for this line section. Similarly, if fault appears in this line section and R1 along with CB1 fails to operate, R1 or CB1 or both of them, if they fails to operate, then R2 will act as backup protection for this line section. Okay, but operation of both R1 and R2 will start simultaneously, whether the fault is if the fault is in this line section. If the fault is in this line section, obviously current will flow up to the fault location, then back to the source without going to this side. So this relay will not come to know. Okay, so F2 fault will be detected by both R1 and R2, but F1 fault will be detected by only R1. Now this was non-directional overcurrent protection. For directional protection, there are two sources, say, correct, and there are two line section AB and BC. For AB, there are two relays at the two ends. Similarly, for line section BC, there are two relays at the two ends of the line section BC. Okay, so this shows a radial system with source at both ends. Consequently, fault is fed from both the sides. If there is a fault at F2, current will flow from this source to the fault as well as from this source to the fault. Similarly, if fault appears at F1, current flows from both the sides. Okay, so to interrupt the fault, relays at both ends of the feeder are required. If only this relay is present and this is absent, then if fault appears at F2, obviously this will send a trip command and the line will be disconnected at this side. But because it has another source on the other side, current will still be flowing to this fault location from the other side of this line section. So to protect the line, to disconnect the faulty section, we need relays at the both ends of the line section. Similarly for the line section BC also. So in this case, from the magnitude of the current seen by the relay R2, suppose voltage appeared at F1. From the magnitude of current seen by the relay R2, it is not possible to distinguish whether the fault is in the line section AB or BC. If fault appears at location F1, okay, R2 will detect the fault current, but it is not possible to know whether the line fault is in this line section or in this line section, because current is flowing from both the sides. Okay, now since the fault in the line section AB is not in its jurisdiction, this is fault in this line section is outside the operating zone of relay R2. R2 should not operate primarily for this line section, only it should act as a backup protection only. So to obtain selectivity means, I told you what was selectivity. A relay should operate only for those faults for which it was installed. So it should be able to detect, should be able to select whether I should act for a particular fault or not. So to obtain the selectivity for this relay, a directional overcurrent relay is required in this case if current is from both two sides. It uses both current magnitude and phase angle information for decision making. Okay. So here, if fault is at location F1, primarily this should act, correct? And if fault is at location F2, this too should act. Also, if fault is at location F2, current will be flowing from both the sides. So current will be still flowing via relay R2 from this source, but this should not act for this line section. For that, relay has to be, R2 has to be directional. That means it should act, it should operate only if the current is in the direction of IF1, not in the direction of IF2. Okay, if this is directional, this will act accordingly. That means if R2 is directional and if it does not operate for correct direction of IF2, then what will happen? Fault has appeared here, current is flowing from this source as well as this source. So this will be activated, this will be activated, this will be activated, this will be activated. But because these two are directional and they do not operate for IF2 direction, so only these two will act. So the primary scheme for this line section acts, not the neighboring section relays. Fuse. A fuse refers to a device that opens a circuit with fusible part which is heated and severed by current flowing through it. The fusible part is also called as fuse element. When current flows in a fuse, high current flows in a fuse, it is generated and the element temperature rises. If the current is within, it is less or equal to its continuous rated value, then the steady state temperature is such that the fuse does not melt. However, if the current has large enough magnitude, it will lead to the fuse element to melt before the steady state temperature conditions are achieved. After melting, an arc may be struck. The fault current will be finally interrupted when the arc is deionized. Thus, the fuse operation involves two phases: melting and current interruption. Here, there are limitations of fuse. Advantage of the fuse based on protection is simplicity and cheapness. However, with fuses, it is difficult to control the time to trip. You cannot control the operating time. It creates difficulty in primary and backup coordination activity. As I told you, in primary backup coordination, we need a proper STI, selective time interval, between the primary and backup, because we cannot control the operating time of the relay. This fuse, it is difficult to achieve primary and backup protection using fuses. Also, once a fuse melts, unless it is replaced, the equipment cannot be energized again, cannot be connected in a circuit again. Thus, it is not possible to have remote operation. If personnel is not present at the location, fuse operation is not present. Fuse operation is not possible for multiple time uses. So this motivates the development of a overcurrent relay, which can be used again and again. Relay will detect the fault and it will send a trip command to circuit breaker. The circuit breaker will disconnect the faulty part. Fault current will be cleared. Once fault current is cleared, current will go back to normal value and the relay will reset itself. So this is the model algorithm for a overcurrent relay. There is a reference or threshold value, I reference, above which the relay will operate. Now, measuring current, incoming current, say I, which is coming from the CT. Next step, compute the ratio of absolute value of I by I reference. This is called as the PSM, that is the fault current by the reference current or the threshold current. Threshold current is called as the pickup value of the relay. Fault current by pickup value is called as the PSM. Okay, so if this PSM value is greater than 1, then the relay will send a trip command to circuit breaker. Plug setting multiplier, PSM, ratio of absolute values of I by I reference. I is the incoming current from the CT, fault current, transform fault current, and I reference is the pickup value. It should be strictly greater than 1 for the relay to operate. Pickup current for relay is the minimum current in the relay at which the relay starts to operate. So long as the current in the relay is less than the pickup value, the relay does not operate and the breaker controlled by it remains in closed position. However, when the relay current is equal or greater than the pickup value, the relay operates to energize the trip coil, of the trip circuit, as I have shown already, which opens the circuit breaker contacts. So it is a minimum current at which the relay starts to operate. What is current setting? It is often desirable to adjust the pickup current to any required value for a particular relay. This is known as the current setting. Via this current setting, it is possible to change the value of pickup current for a relay. And this current setting is usually achieved by use of tappings on the relay operating coil, because relay operating coil is like a coil, like a transformer. Tappings are used. Okay, the taps are brought out to a plug bridge as shown. The plug bridge permits to alter the number of turns in the relay coil, thus changes the torque on the disc and hence the time of operation of the relay. So by changing the tappings on the relay operating coil, number of turns will be changed, number of effective turns in the relay operating coil will be changed, and accordingly, for this reason, number of the torque value will be changed. If torque is changed, the operating time of the relay will be changed. Okay. The values assigned to each step is expressed as percentage of full load rating of the CT with which the relay associated represents the value above which the disc commences to rotate and finally closes the trip circuit. So 50% current setting means 50% of rated value of the CT. That is the pickup value. 50% current setting means 50% of the 50% of the full load rating of the circuit breaker, CT current transformer, is the value of the pickup value of pickup current of this relay. 100% current setting means pickup value of the relay is 100% of the full load rating of the CT, full load current of the CT. So the relation between pickup current and current setting is pickup current is equal to rated secondary current of the CT. Rated secondary current. If a CT is having a ratio of 5:1 and primary full load current is 500 ampere, the rated secondary current will be 100 ampere for 5:1 CT. So pickup current will be 100 multiplied by current setting. If current setting is 50%, it will be 100 into 50% is the pickup current of this relay. Okay. So here's an example is shown here. Suppose an overcurrent relay having a current setting of 125%. This is a current setting of this relay is connected to a supply circuit through a transformer CT of 400:5. So the rated secondary current is 5 ampere for this CT. Therefore the pickup current will be 125% of 5 ampere, that is 6.25. That means this is the pickup current of the relay. As soon as the current in the relay operating coil reaches 6.25 or goes above 6.25, the relay will be activated and it will send a trip command to the circuit breaker via the trip circuit. Next is PSM. I told you, plug setting multiplier. It is the ratio of the fall current in the relay to the pickup current. I by I reference. I is the incoming current via the CT. Transform fall current in the relay coil by the pickup current. And pickup current, we already got the formula, rated secondary current of the CT multiplied by current setting. Please remember this formula. For example, suppose a relay is connected to a 400:5 CT via this CT is connected to the line. This relay is connected to the line via this CT which is having a ratio of 400:5, and the relay have a current setting of 150%. Now in the line during fall condition, the fall current is 2400 ampere. So the plug setting can be multiplied like this. First we need, for this formula we need the pickup current of this relay using this current setting. Pickup current will be rated secondary current of the CT. What is rated secondary current of the CT? 5 ampere. Correct? And this current setting is 150%. So pickup value was rated secondary current into current setting is the pickup current of the relay, which is 7.5 ampere. Rated secondary current into current setting is the pickup value of the relay. Once we get this pickup value, I need now the fall current to get this ratio. Fall current in the relay coil will be the secondary current of the CT, because primary is connected in the line, primary of the CT is connected in the line, and secondary winding is supplying the current to the relay. So the fall current in the relay is nothing but the secondary current of the CT. How to find the secondary current? Simply it will be I1 by I2 is equal to 400:5. Is not it? This is the current ratio, 400:5. If primary current is 400, secondary current would be 5. So if primary current is 2400 during fall condition, what is the secondary current? Secondary current is 330. I1 by I2 is equal to 400 by 5. So you can get the fall current in the relay. So PSM will be now fall current divided by pickup current, which is 4. Okay, so that is all for the class test. Along with the assignments, I gave you the question for self-study, the question for self-study. And if you have any doubt with this video lecture, please call me immediately for today's lecture. Thank you.